from Sammie Jo-Webster, who is the Norfolk and Suffolk Regional Coordinator for Mental Health Motorbike.
Good evening, everyone. So I am one of the coordinators for Mental Health Motorbike. I look after Norfolk and Suffolk. We do have another 20 odd of us that are spread up and down the country. So if anybody else is spread around, you probably have somebody in your local area that covers this stuff too. Tonight, I'm going to talk about mental health and riding and why this is important, why it's important to kind of keep a check on yourself, and just, making sure that you're in the right place before you hop on a bike to go somewhere. We all have bad days. We all have days where we sometimes think, I don't really feel like riding today. And they are probably the days that you probably shouldn't get on the bike. If we can have the next slide, please, Darren. So before you ride, what's really important, and really, we've talked about some of these already. So some of the guys have sort of jumped onto these subjects, and you're going to see another one after me. But first of all, check your bike. Make sure your lights work. Make sure, everything is as it should be. Nothing is, going to give you any issues while you're out on your ride. Why is that important? Because you know that you're happy that your bike is good when you get on it. Next thing, check your clothing. Has it got any damage? Is there, are you going to be warm? Are you going to do something where you're not going to get wet? We've all got stuck out in the rain now and then, one of us. And that when you get wet, you don't feel comfortable on the bike. All you're thinking about is I'm soaked through. So making sure that you've got everything with you that really is going to make sure that ride is healthy. And the last one, which is really important, is checking on yourself. Are you in the right place to ride today? Have you had a lot going on right now where you think, actually, I shouldn't be? You want to try and being able to focus when you get on that bike. We're not thinking about anything else. We need to be in the moment when we're on the bike, looking forward, looking for our hazards, and just making sure that we are able to pick up on those. If our brain is going off 100 miles an hour on perhaps, all the other things that have been going on in that day, you can very likely think of one of those and lose a slip of concentration for a moment or so. If we can have the next slide, please, Darren. Why is it important? Why is it important that we are in the right place? Why is it something that we need to think about a lot more? We think about what the bike is. We think about what clothes we wear. We think about what's our favorite helmet, what's our favorite clothes to wear. We should also be thinking, is my brain in the right place for my ride today? Can I have the next slide, please? I think these things are the things that are really important and that are really key in terms of being on a bike and the things that we need to talk about. So we can have a little brief look at some of these things. Staying calm. When you pull up to a situation, we were talking about hazards earlier. When you get into that situation and there is a hazard, if you are calm, you can deal with it in the right way. You're not panicking. And you can, keep your focus on and deal with the situation as you need to. Focusing on the present, making sure that you are, the only thing that you're thinking about is riding that bike. You're not thinking about what shopping you need on Friday. You're not thinking about, what time you've got to rush back. All of those things that just take our focus away, which can impact on the hazards that we see, that can impact on what we're thinking about when we're out, and just making sure that we've got everything in place. The growth mindset. Really, really important is that whenever you are out, you are learning. And we touched on this with the hazard perception earlier, that you are always learning when you are out. You are always looking for new things. You're teaching your memory to remember how you've dealt with a particular situation. But being able to use that to build on your riding and also to, to perfect how you ride and, really kind of hone in on your riding skills. Staying within your limits, really making sure that you are riding to the best of your ability. We all like a little bit of speed. We generally, we're putting a leg over our bike at the end of the day, but knowing that, that you need to be safe and that you need to be thinking about this. Sometimes when we're not in the right frame of mind, if we've got a lot going on right now, sometimes we can go out and not be in that right place, and we can do silly things. We've all done a silly thing here and there, but just really important to know what your limits are and how you're feeling on that particular day. The next one, be prepared for the unexpected. Making sure that you've got everything with you that you need. Is it looking like it's going to rain today? Have you popped your waterproofs in your bag? So you're not worrying. and you can stop, you can put them on. You're not going to get soaked through. You're not going to feel like you're sodding wet when you're riding. And that's going to take away your concentration of what you're doing. Also, be really important about reviewing your riding. A lot of people now, especially if you're learning, especially if you're a young rider, especially if you're new to riding, being really important to look and think about when you were riding, what did I do? How did I react to that hazard? Did I react to it appropriately? Could I learn from it again? If I came across the same thing again, could I do something different? And that's really important to think about, and kind of rolls into the growth mindset of reviewing and making things a little bit better. Engaging your senses. That kind of comes with also staying focused on the present. If you're focusing on the present, your senses are heightened to what's going on around you at that time. If your brain is off somewhere else and it's thinking about other things, you don't always necessarily engage all of those senses that we need when you're riding. And one thing is really, really important: don't ride under the influence. If for any reason you're going to have a drink, whatever that might be, don't get on that bike. Your mind is not going to be in the right place for that. And really, really important. Thinking about your mindset, thinking about how happy you are when you get on the bike. A lot of us will ride a bike because we want a break. That's our therapy. The riding is our therapy, but it's really important to know that these 8 things, and to come back to these 8 things before you get onto that bike, and to make sure that you are in a really, really good place. Can I have the next slide, please? Mental health motorbike, and something that we promote quite a lot, is something called the 5 ways to well-being. And a lot of this applies to everybody. It applies to thinking about if you are supporting a young rider, and you're giving those really good habits. If you ride yourself, taking a look at some of these things to ensure that your mental health and your well-being are in check. And these are our 5 ways. So the first one is keep learning, and that rolls into the reviewing your riding and how you feel when you're riding, pushing yourself forward, improving your confidence on a bike, and just in generally improving confidence in general. And you can see there some of the things that we can do around that. Taking notice, enjoying the riding, be aware of what's going on around, reflecting on your experiences. We talked about the review riding earlier and how that kind of comes into there. Making sure you're being active, getting out for a walk, taking a bike, going for a walk, being active. Mental health and well-being before you get on a bike doesn't always necessarily mean using the bike for a therapy purpose. Doing exercise, raising esteem, feeling confident and strong when you're on a bike. All of those types of things will come into the mental health and well-being topic. Giving back. One that I really love: smile or nodding to waving to other bikers. You never know how much that nod or that wave to somebody else is going to change their entire day. Looking out, doing something for somebody else, helping, a young rider, encouraging a young rider to help others, and also making sure that you're connecting, investing time with people, talking to other people about riding, about your riding experience as well, getting kind of information off others, or giving or helping others at the same time. If I could have the next slide, please. Thank you. So the charity that I work for, or that I volunteer for, Mental Health Motorbike. So we are a UK-wide charity. We work to train volunteers in mental health first aid and to enable them to support others, but we do also provide an online support group. At the moment, we can only really provide support for 18 and upwards, but what we want to encourage people to do is actually before that they're actually thinking about their health and their well-being when they're getting onto a bike. So although in terms of the actual support that we do, it is for 18 upwards, we do have lots of resources on the website that can be accessed by anybody as well. We want to create meaningful opportunities. We want to make sure that everybody is getting onto a bike, their mental well-being is helped, and that they're just able to get on and feel more comfortable. If I can have the next slide, please. We do have a website. The link is here. The link is going to come out to you guys at the end of this session also. There are lots of help on there. There are lots of support on there around riding. Things that you can do for your mental health and well-being. You will see the 5 ways of well-being stuff will pop up on there. There's some great well-being playlists for music, but also what you can do and how you can help well-being and your own well-being as well. The charity itself, we do also provide mental health first aid training as well. If that is something that is of interest to you, there are some more details on the website, and we're going to pop some out to you guys afterwards. Thank you for listening. Any questions, pop them in the chat box and we will come to them at the end. Thank you.